It all started in a small town outside of Austin, Texas. A place where life moved a little slower, and the biggest news was usually about the local football team. But one day, something extraordinary was about to shake the dusty streets and catch the attention of one of the most powerful tech giants in the world, Elon Musk. At the heart of this story was Ethan Parker, a 17-year-old high school senior with a knack for fixing things. Unlike most kids his age who spent their time glued to social media, Ethan had a different passion: machines. Ever since he was little, he would tinker with broken-down gadgets he found in his neighbor's garage. By the time he was 12, he had already rebuilt an old lawnmower engine. At 15, he restored a rusted-out motorcycle to working condition. But what really fascinated Ethan? Electric cars, especially Teslas. Ethan's father, Mark, was a mechanic who ran a small auto repair shop on the edge of town. Business had slowed in recent years as newer electric vehicles replaced gas-powered cars. But Mark always believed in one thing: if it's broken, you can fix it. It was a lesson Ethan took to heart. One hot afternoon, Ethan was helping his dad in the garage when something unusual happened. A sleek Tesla Model S Plaid, painted midnight black, pulled up in front of their shop. The car didn't belong to anyone from town. That much was obvious. Ethan wiped the grease off his hands and walked over to the car just as the driver stepped out. The man was clearly frustrated. "Hey, my Tesla's completely dead," he said, shaking his head. "Took it to 2 other places, and no one could figure out what's wrong. Can you guys take a look?" Ethan's heart raced. It wasn't every day that he got to work on a Tesla, let alone one of the most advanced electric cars in the world. He nodded quickly, motioning for the man to pull it into the garage. His father raised an eyebrow but didn't object. For hours, Ethan pored over the car's diagnostics. Tesla vehicles were built like no other, layers of advanced hardware combined with cutting-edge software. It wasn't just about fixing parts, it was about understanding the code that powered the machine. Most mechanics would have given up, but not Ethan. Something about this challenge excited him. By midnight, Mark had gone home, leaving Ethan alone in the garage. He had his laptop hooked into the Tesla's onboard computer, his fingers flying over the keyboard. The issue wasn't mechanical, it was in the firmware. A glitch in the car's energy management system was causing it to shut down unexpectedly. It wasn't easy, but after 3 hours of writing custom code and tweaking the battery protocols, Ethan fixed it. When he tapped the screen and saw the dashboard light up, his heart skipped a beat. The next morning, the owner of the Tesla was stunned. "How did you? Even Tesla couldn't figure this out," he said, staring at Ethan as though he had performed magic. Ethan just smiled and shrugged. "I just understood what it needed," he said simply. What Ethan didn't know was that the Tesla's owner wasn't just anyone, he was an executive at SpaceX. And 2 days later, Elon Musk himself would hear about the kid who did what no one else could. 2 days after Ethan fixed the Tesla, life in his small town returned to normal, or so he thought. He went to school, helped his dad in the garage, and spent his evenings tinkering with old electronics in his bedroom. But somewhere in the bustling offices of SpaceX, a different conversation was happening, one that would soon turn Ethan's quiet life upside down. The Tesla's owner, David Collins, wasn't just any SpaceX executive, he was the head of vehicle engineering, personally working on next-gen technology for both Tesla and SpaceX. When his $130,000 Model S Plaid failed without explanation, even Tesla's in-house tech support couldn't resolve the issue. Yet, a 17-year-old from a dusty garage in Texas fixed it in a single night. It wasn't long before David's curiosity turned into excitement. He had to tell Elon Musk. That morning, Elon was at Giga Texas, overseeing the final tests on Tesla's Cybertruck production line. With his typical no-nonsense demeanor, he listened as David explained what had happened. At first, Elon didn't react, he simply sipped his coffee, his mind already processing the implications. "A high school kid?" Elon asked, raising an eyebrow. "And he wrote custom firmware?" David nodded. "Yeah. And not just any fix, it was elegant. He rewrote the energy protocols and optimized the battery control logic. It's running better than before." For a moment, Elon leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. "I want to meet him," he said finally. "Get him on a call. Now." Meanwhile, Ethan was elbow-deep in an old Chevrolet engine when his phone buzzed in his pocket. Wiping his hands, he pulled it out and saw an unknown number. Normally, he'd ignore it, but something made him answer. "Hello? Is this Ethan Parker?" a crisp voice asked. Yeah," Ethan said, confused. "Please hold for Mr. Elon Musk." Ethan froze, the wrench clattering to the ground. Elon Musk. Before he could even process what was happening, a familiar voice came through the line. "Hey, Ethan. I heard you fixed a Model S Plaid." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. Was this real? Was Elon Musk, the man behind Tesla, SpaceX, and the Boring Company, actually calling him? "Why, yeah. I did," Ethan stammered. "How?" Elon asked bluntly. "Even my best engineers couldn't crack that bug." Ethan took a breath, his brain racing to catch up. I just followed the energy logs," he explained. "The system was stuck in a power looping sequence, so I wrote custom code to reset the battery flow protocols and optimized the heat sink data. It wasn't that hard once I found the bottleneck." For a moment, there was silence. Then Elon chuckled softly. "Not hard, huh?" he said. "You realize what you did is insane, right?" "I guess so," Ethan replied, unsure whether to be proud or terrified. "All right, kid. I'm flying to Austin tomorrow. You free to meet?" Ethan's jaw dropped. Yes. Definitely." "Good," Elon said. "I want you to take a look at something even my best guys are struggling with. Let's see if you're as smart as David says." And just like that, Ethan's life was about to change forever. The next morning felt unreal. Ethan barely slept the night before, his mind buzzing with possibilities. Elon Musk, one of the most brilliant and famous innovators on the planet, was coming to meet him, a high school kid from a small Texas town. It was the kind of thing that only happened in movies. By noon, the dusty parking lot outside Parker's Auto Repair was filled with a convoy of black SUVs. The town had never seen anything like it. When Elon Musk stepped out, dressed in a black Tesla jacket and sunglasses, it felt as if the world itself had slowed down. Ethan swallowed hard, wiping his hands nervously on his jeans. His father, Mark, stood beside him, equally stunned. "You must be Ethan," Elon said, extending a hand. His grip was firm, and his gaze was as intense as the stories had suggested. "Why, yes, sir," Ethan stammered, shaking his hand. "Call me Elon," Musk replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I'm not here to give a lecture. I'm here because you did something my top engineers couldn't. And I want to know if it was a lucky fluke, or if you're the real deal." Ethan felt his heart race. "I'll do my best." Elon motioned to David Collins, who opened the trunk of one of the SUVs. Inside was something that made Ethan's eyes widen, a prototype Tesla drive unit. But this wasn't an ordinary one. It was sleek, compact, and unlike anything Ethan had ever seen in Tesla's official product line. "This," Elon said, "is our next-generation self-healing drive system. It's supposed to autonomously repair minor faults in real time, but it's not working. Our diagnostics keep coming up empty. You have 2 hours. Think you can fix it?" Ethan's breath caught in his throat. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. "I'll try," he said, his voice steadier now. With his father watching anxiously, Ethan rolled up his sleeves and dove in. He connected his laptop to the drive unit and began scanning the diagnostic outputs. The system was so advanced that it felt like working with something from the future. At first, everything looked normal, but then he noticed something subtle. The self-healing algorithm was overcorrecting voltage spikes, causing a cascade of errors. "That's it," Ethan muttered under his breath. In the corner of the garage, Elon watched intently, arms crossed. He was known for his impossible standards and had no patience for time wasters. But there was something about this kid, his focus, his confidence, that intrigued him. Ethan's fingers flew across the keyboard, rewriting portions of the algorithm to slow the error-checking cycle. The solution wasn't to force repairs, it was to let the system breathe, giving it micropauses to self-regulate. After 90 minutes, he stepped back. "Try it now," he said. David connected the drive unit to a test bench, and the machine whirred to life, smooth, perfect, no errors. The entire room was silent except for the low hum of the system. Elon tilted his head, clearly impressed. "You fixed it," he said quietly. Ethan exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Yeah, I guess I did." Without a word, Elon reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek, black card. A Tesla VIP access badge, something given only to the most valued insiders. I don't do this often, Elon said, handing it to Ethan. But you're special. How about an internship at Tesla and SpaceX? Ethan's jaw dropped. Was this real? Was he actually being offered a chance to work alongside the best engineers in the world? I'd love that, he finally said, his voice shaking with excitement. Good, Elon said, smiling for the first time. Welcome to the team, kid. 3 weeks after that life-changing meeting, Ethan Parker stood at the entrance of SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. The massive glass and steel building gleamed under the Los Angeles sun, and a towering Falcon 9 rocket stood proudly in the distance. For a kid who grew up fixing rusty trucks in a small Texas garage, it felt like stepping onto another planet. His VIP badge hung proudly around his neck, a golden ticket to a world most people could only dream of. Welcome aboard, Ethan, said David Collins, the SpaceX executive whose Tesla he had repaired. Elon wants you to work on something special. Ethan's pulse quickened as David led him through the bustling SpaceX labs. Engineers huddled over prototype engines, robotic arms whirred in the background, and everywhere he looked, innovation was happening. This was no ordinary workplace, this was the future in motion. They stopped outside a secure glass room labeled Project Nova Restricted Access. David scanned his badge, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, a team of engineers stood around what looked like a futuristic engine. But Ethan could immediately tell it wasn't for a car, it was rocket technology. This, David explained, is a prototype for the quantum drive, a next-gen engine for interplanetary travel. Elon believes this will power the first human mission to Mars. But there's a problem. No matter what we try, the drive keeps overheating and failing. Think you're up for the challenge? Ethan's heart pounded. Fixing a Tesla was one thing, fixing a rocket engine was another. But instead of fear, he felt a surge of excitement. I'll give it everything I've got, he said, the genius at work. Over the next few days, Ethan immersed himself in the quantum drive systems. He pored over complex schematics and poured his heart into cracking the problem. Despite being surrounded by engineers with years of experience, his unique perspective, unburdened by conventional thinking, gave him an edge. And then, on the 5th day, he found the flaw. The drive's coolant algorithms were reacting too slowly to rapid temperature spikes. It wasn't a hardware failure, it was a timing issue in the code. The solution: rewrite the temperature management system to predict thermal loads instead of reacting after the fact. It was a radical idea, but Ethan knew it would work. Late one night, with most of the lab empty, he uploaded his revised code and initiated a test run. As the engine roared to life, he watched the temperature monitor nervously. For the first few minutes, nothing changed. Then the spike stopped. It worked. The quantum drive stabilized. He had fixed it. The next morning, Ethan was called into Elon's private office, a sleek, minimalist space filled with models of SpaceX rockets and Tesla prototypes. Elon stood by the window, gazing out thoughtfully, but turned as Ethan entered. So, Elon said, his voice calm but curious, David tells me you fixed the quantum drive. Ethan nodded, swallowing his nerves. Yes, sir. It was a prediction error in the coolant algorithm. I rewrote it to calculate thermal spikes before they happen. For a long moment, Elon just stared at him. Then he smiled. You're a rare kind of mind, Ethan, Elon said, leaning against his desk. Most people follow the rules. You rewrite them. Ethan's chest swelled with pride. Coming from Elon Musk, those words meant everything. I want you to stay, Elon continued. Not just as an intern. As part of our team full-time. We need people like you if we're going to make life multiplanetary. Ethan's head spun. A month ago, he was fixing cars in a dusty garage. Now, Elon Musk was offering him a permanent position at SpaceX to work on technology that could change the future of humanity. I'm in, Ethan said without hesitation. Elon nodded, satisfied. Good. Let's make history together. From high school to the stars. Ethan's decision to join SpaceX full-time sent shockwaves through his small Texas town. Friends, teachers, even his father could hardly believe it. One minute, he was a high school kid fixing trucks. The next, he was working alongside the brightest minds on Earth's most ambitious project. His mother cried when she heard the news. His father, though proud, struggled to process it. "Son, I always knew you were smart," Mark said, gripping Ethan's shoulder. "But this is beyond anything I imagined." Despite the whirlwind of change, Ethan remained grounded. He still called home every night and promised his mom he'd finish his high school diploma through an online program. But by day, he was living a life most teenagers couldn't even dream of. The Mars mission breakthrough. Over the next 6 months, Ethan became an indispensable member of Project Nova. His out-of-the-box thinking helped solve problems that had stalled the quantum drive's progress for years. But his biggest breakthrough came on a rainy night in May. While running a late-night simulation, he spotted an anomaly, something no one else had noticed. The drive's efficiency wasn't just improving, it was exceeding theoretical limits. Ethan dug deeper and realized his revised coolant algorithms were doing more than stabilizing the engine, they were recycling thermal waste into additional energy output. In simple terms, the quantum drive was now 20% more powerful, enough to cut travel time to Mars in half. When he reported the findings the next morning, the entire engineering team erupted in applause. This wasn't just a minor improvement, it was a game-changer. And Elon Musk, ever the visionary, knew exactly what it meant. This, Elon said during a press conference weeks later, is a monumental breakthrough. Thanks to Ethan Parker, a young genius who fixed what others thought was impossible, we're accelerating our Mars timeline. Our first manned mission will launch 3 years ahead of schedule. The media went wild. Ethan's name was suddenly everywhere, the teen who fixed SpaceX, they called him. He was invited to speak at tech conferences, interviewed on national television, and even graced the cover of Popular Science with the headline, "The boy who brought Mars closer. A future beyond imagination." Despite the sudden fame, Ethan stayed humble. At his core, he was still the same curious kid who loved taking things apart and figuring out how they worked. And even though the world now saw him as a prodigy, he never forgot his roots or the dusty garage where it all began. When Elon offered him a spot on the first crewed mission to Mars, Ethan didn't hesitate. "I've spent my life looking up at the stars," he told his father. "Now I get to touch them." On July 4, 2031, Ethan stood on the launch pad at SpaceX's Starbase facility, suited up and ready. As the engines roared to life beneath him, he thought about how far he had come, from fixing an old Tesla to riding the most advanced spaceship humanity had ever built. As Starship Nova lifted off, bound for the Red Planet, Elon Musk's words echoed in his mind. "Let's make history together." And Ethan Parker? He was just getting started.